How are we doing, everyone? Welcome back to the course. In this video, we're going to be talking about trading plan essentials. So this video is just going to outline the different essential topics that we need to include in our trading plan to make sure that we cover all bases. The first of the trading plan essentials, and the first thing that you really need to be marking down when creating your trading plan, is how much capital you're going to be trading with. So everyone's going to be trading with a different amount of capital, but if you can mark down how much you're trading with and how much your account is going to be running with, this gives you a start point to then build targets, limits, and goals around that set starting amount. It's a good place to begin so that you can visualize goals, you can visualize targets, and you can visualize risk and how much risk tolerance you're going to have towards the amount of capital that you're trading. Now, when it comes to goals, targets, things like this, I always recommend focusing on percentages rather than the actual monetary amount. But it's still nice to have a good starting point of how much capital you're trading with. Because let's say you're trading with $200. Let's say you're starting with $200. Your risk tolerance with $200 is probably going to be a bit higher. Okay, you might want to risk 4% per trade rather than 2% to help grow that account a bit faster. Whereas if you're trading with $100,000, chances are you might want to lower the risk, possibly to 1%, so that you're only risking $1,000 per trade, as opposed to $4,000 if you kept that 4% risk. So while we are going to focus on percentages for limits, for targets, for goals, we're actually going to use that starting point of how much capital you're trading with to actually visualize these things and come up with what's going to work best for us. Okay. So the next trading plan essential is how much of your capital are you going to risk per trade? Of course, as we've mentioned, we want to look at this in percentage terms. But this is an important thing to mark down, as we spoke about in the risk management section of this course. One of the most important aspects of risk management is maintaining that same risk percentage per trade. So determine how much capital you're going to risk on every single trade you take. And that is going to be one of the first steps in actually devising the risk management protocol section of your personal trading plan. What's your risk reward target going to be on every trade you take? Personally, I aim for 1 to 2 or higher. We're not always going to achieve that 1 to 2. There are going to be early closure trades and stop loss in profit trades that closes out at less than 1 to 2. But as a general basis, 1 to 2 is my target, and I never aim to take a trade with stop loss and take profit parameters lower than a 1 to 2. So what's your risk reward target going to be? Are you going to go aggressive and try and go for the 1 to 4s, the 1 to 5s, or are you going to be modest with it and run for 1 to 2s, right? I never recommend under 1 to 2 because, of course, we do want to always stay on the right path with that risk management and try and aim for the best risk reward that we can. So what are you going to target as a monthly profit number? Are you going to go for 5%, 7%, 10%, 15%? Or if you're trading 4% risk per trade, are you going to go for 20%? Think about your risk tolerance and think about your personal aversion to risk. Can you handle a lot of risk? Are you happy to go ahead risking 4% per trade to aim for those higher targets, the more aggressive approach going for 20% per month? Or are you better set with a smaller target? All of these things come together as we've spoke about so far. All the risk management aspects are going to tie in. So follow these rules in order. Find that amount that you want to risk per trade and then run it from there. What's your target's going to be? What's your limit's going to be? What is your capital overall? And what are your goals with that capital? So when we have our risk management protocols in place, we want to think about and write down in our trading plan what technical processes are we going to use to achieve our goals. We've got our goals in place. We want to make 5%, 10%, 20% per month. And we want to maintain our capital. So how are we going to do that, right? We want to mark down the technical processes, the criteria for entering trades. And then we need to think about how we're going to execute and manage our trades, right? What are the entry confirmations we're looking for? When will we move stop losses into break even? And how will we ladder our stop losses into profit as the trade runs? How are we going to minimize risk and make sure that we always come out of every trade with the best case scenario? What limits and guidelines are you going to put in place to minimize your risk and cut off the chances of a large downfall? Are you going to stop trading for the day after you lose 1 trade or 2 trades? Or are you going to stop trading for the week when you're down 5%? Will you cut off completely and rework your strategy after a 10% or 15-20% loss. Things like this are very essential because as traders, we're always adapting to the market. The market's always changing. We need these limits in place to help us to cap those times in the market where we're going to have losses, and cap the times in the market where things go against us a little bit. We will all have these times. So we need to make sure we have these limits in place to minimize risk. And the trading plan is the perfect place to put down these ideas. The final real trading plan essential is going to be, what are your plans for withdrawing profits? Okay, at the end of the day, this is a business. We are here to make money. When are you going to withdraw money? Are you going to withdraw it weekly, monthly, or when you hit a certain percentage gain? Now, this is important to know so that you don't end up making a load of money and then giving it back to the markets, right? We want to make the money and then withdraw it. Now, towards the early days of your trading, I won't lie, you are probably going to be going through a learning curve, okay? With this education, hopefully this gives you a huge booster, but you will be going through a learning curve, and chances are you're not going to be making a withdrawal right away, okay? Chances are you are going to struggle a little bit getting the grip of everything, okay? If you are a bit more of an experienced trader and you're refining your skills with what you've learned here, then that's great. You're probably going to be withdrawing profits a bit sooner. But if you are a beginner trader or fairly new to the markets, this is something to mark down and something to keep in mind as a goal, right? But don't stress over this too much, because at the end of the day, the early days of trading are going to be the learning curve, and for learning, not for withdrawing profits, not for making tons of money, for mastering the processes. Okay, so this, of all of them, is going to be the final one to focus on. Think about all the other aspects, the risk management aspects and the technical trading aspects of the trading plan, more so than your profit withdrawals. So there are some optional aspects as well that I do recommend actually adding in. We will talk about these. We want to talk about motivations, right? What are you actually aiming to achieve trading? What is your reason for being inside the markets? If you put these things down, motivations, maybe you were trying to get a new car, maybe you want long-term financial freedom, you can visualize these things in your trading plan, and they're just going to give you that extra boost of confidence you need to actually hold your discipline and stick to your processes. So psychology, while optional, and while the trading plan is generally more mechanical processes like a business plan, it is always good to include your motivations and the reasons that you're actually here trading, because this is going to really help you to remain focused. Okay, so those are all the trading plan essentials so far. There will actually be a little PDF attached, just a single page PDF with all of these trading plan essentials on for you to consider. Now that we've spoken about that, dive further into this chapter to learn more about developing your own trading plan. Okay, we're going to go each individual topic. We'll go a bit more in depth on that and discuss risk management, discuss technical processes, and then discuss the psychology side and adding these motivations in to help you remain on track. So without further ado, let's dive into the next video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you over there.